here and she's on. Blue, and she's solid. Yeah. So none of those are good. Put a copy and get going. I'm calling the meeting of the Bexar Appraisal District. The members of the board who are present are Mr. Bruce, Dr. Garcia, Jim Reste, and Dr. Barkstad. Do have four. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? No, sir, we do not. The minutes are included under tab C. Did not have a chance to look at those from the it's the Jenny sent us. Take a moment to look at them. We will. Do we have any additions, corrections, or edits?
Just a minor one. Page 2, the bill should be a dot in it, just a, it's just House Bill 2786. On the third page, just a dot.
All right, can you make those corrections? Good. And we have a motion to approve. Dr. Barksdale, seconded by Dr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D, enhancement. Crystal?
We're asking the board to spend a budgeted amount of $150,000 for CAMA enhancement to the vendor Harris Govern for our tax software. It is a budgeted amount and it'll come out of our CAMA enhancement budget.
Remind us what CAMA stands for.
CAMA is computer assisted mass appraisal. It's the software package that runs our entire office on the appraisal side of things.
Okay.
We have been with Harris Government for the last 20 years, and like everything else, it needs enhancements. With the increasing workload that we've been getting year over year, we have to have these enhancements, which again are already budgeted into the current system, which when we've looked at new technology is significantly cheaper than going with another CAMA system.
Who within this is our
It's everyone, all of the appraisal staff, all of the IT staff, all of the customer service staff, and the appraisal review board staff. All of that is operated within the CAMA system. We also run off of the databases, all of our website, our online appeals software, all of that runs off of the CAMA system. It is the single biggest CAMA software, or the software package that we utilize here.
Okay.
It's an enhancement,
Yes.
addition to.
Yes, and what these enhancements do is, and specifically this year, we are working to do some modernization. It's 20 years old, and it's kind of like an older car, performs great, just needs a little bit of fix up, and that's basically what this is. It's doing some modernization of the front end, allowing some additional bulk processing that for our size district that others will benefit from too. But at the same time, it is much more cost effective than going with a different software package. Going through and doing enhancements along the way keeps us from having to spend multi-millions of dollars to change out the software. And so it's something that we definitely keep up with and want to advance into the next generation.
Is that the primary system for data entry for
Yes.
determining appraisals?
Yes.
And how common is it in other appraisal districts in Texas? Does everybody use it?
everybody uses a form of CAMA software. The one that we utilize is used by the largest number of counties in the state. Nobody has a monopoly on the entire state, but this one is the largest in Texas.
It's my understanding also, Mr. Bruce, that Bear County is the largest district that is using Harris Govern.
Yes.
One department that Scott failed to mention, along with all the other departments, is our litigation department. Our litigation department also utilizes PAC, so it is encompass all departments.
That's correct.
So just out of latent curiosity, how many different sort of systems like this are available? So if you should at some point, how many bidders?
There's quite a few of them throughout throughout the United States and Canada. One of the ones that is a newer technology is put together by some of the folks who used to work on the current one. There's at least 5 different ones that other districts that are of larger size in the state utilize. It's PAX, which is what we use, True Prodigy, Software Techniques, Mars, and Aumentum. Parent is currently on Aumentum. They're going to a different platform, and just for comparison purposes, they're having to switch out their entire organization, go through conversion, retraining, and all to a newer, modern platform, and that is going to cost them $3.8 million. So spending $150,000 is a significant cost savings and much more cost effective in our opinion.
I guess my last question is, the capacity or computer system, the snuff on this, or?
Yes.
Let's look at some expansion of that.
We will still be able to continue with the hardware that we have for another couple of years. We'll be coming up on a hardware refresh in 2027. And we are already working towards saving up for that and determining what our capacity needs will be at that point in time. But right now, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like
Versus 3 million.
Yes, sir.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, sir.
to piggyback off of Dr. Parks, one of the things that I'd like to let the board know is I'd like to give Scott credit, as well as my IT director and his assistant, Dan Smith, because one of the things they do is to make sure that we are always up and running. We know the importance of any little glitch in our end, what it does to your constituents. One of the things that they do is they're always looking out for new software to enhance our product. But one of the things that they won't do is just go into something because it's the newest thing. If it's something that we already have, we just need to enhance ours. They're very, very cost efficient as far as making sure that we are not just, frivolously spending money. So I want to give them credit for that.
Well, you would have to retrain everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Changing.
Absolutely.
So it's probably smart to be upgrading their system
Yes.
rather than expecting, like some providers I've dealt with, they dump everything and make you learn all over again.
Yes.
It's got the same name. It's not.
It's just packaged a little different.
Yeah.
Did you get in 20?
Oh,
They
it's-
completely changed system.
Obviously, there may be rare occasions where that. Costs, but it's something.
You know what the old baby boomers say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I know that's a popular phrase.
Mr. Cannon, before we continue, because we are currently live, we do have to speak a little bit louder.
Okay, thank you. I will do that.
No.
So we have the recommendation from staff for Harris Government for $150,000 to our campus system. Is there any further discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Bruce, Dr. Garcia, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Before we go on to the next item, I would like to say, these two gentlemen here are large part responsible for having our penguin with us today. They did on our behalf. The next item is adjourned executive session.
Yes.
We'll do that. It is. Make sure that we're now adjourned. All righty. We are coming back at the second session.
Hold on, sir.
It is 2:32 PM. We are back in open session. We're not discussing open session, anything that has. That being the case, we will move on to reports. First, is Chief Financial Appraiser.
I will read from tab F. There are January's financials in here, but I'm gonna read the February financials. If you, under the February tab. And it's our funds investment report dated February 28th, 2025. Total operating account, total deposits were $10,692,329.13. Our year-to-date interest earned on our money market account is $47,732.93. We are over collateralized by $7,096,449.32. We can turn to page 4. Total revenues collected at the end of February are $7,124,452. Then you can turn to page 7. And you'll see we'll have a surplus as of February 28th of $2,397,358. And our next page is a statement of our designated cash fund. There are no changes. Do you have any questions for the February financial? Thank you.
As long as we're on financials, we need to have a budget review.
Yes, sir. Our ad hoc committee, we are finalizing our budget right now, so we are still looking at the same dates that we had originally told the ad hoc committee, the last week of April.
Okay, so nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. So if anything, maybe the three of y'all could get some dates for us.
So
That would work. We'll be ready for that.
Here, but you and I can
Present it for the full board.
So after the ad hoc committee meetings that last of April, will be presented for the May.
Yes, ma'am. Before the full board.
Okay, appraisal records.
Appraisal records, we're in tab F2. So we're in the month of April now. That is the appraisal notice season for us. We have prepared our appraisal records for noticing, and we have sent those to the print vendors. They will be dropped in the mail this Friday, April 11th. We're sending out 393,000 appraisal notices this year, down substantially over the prior 2 years.
How many? Can you repeat that number?
393,780.
Sarah sent us the email. Oh, okay. And I'm gonna, never mind, you don't have to repeat that.
Okay, we anticipate them to be in mailboxes as possibly as early as Saturday, but most likely at the beginning of next week. With that, then becomes the protest deadline, and we'll get into that more later.
Those appeal, those value increase notices, they're gonna go out all at one time, you can do like
Yes,
10
the-
batches.
This first batch is the bulk of our appraisal notices. It represents 93% of our appraisal records. We will have 2 more appraisal record notice runs, one in May and one in June, to encapsulate the remaining property records. What we have left is mostly business personal property, which has a later rendition deadline date. And then we still have a small batch of commercial and agricultural properties that are still being reviewed.
And just not to be overly simplistic for new board members, but what we passed, I guess, been several years ago, it's, anybody whose value increases by more than $1,000 will receive one of these notices. And I think last year, didn't we have close to 500,000?
567,000.
Okay, and we're down to 392.
Yes, sir.
293 in round figures.
How many parcels total do we have now?
728,138.
How much of that is new?
We added probably just under 20,000 new records this past year. We added 12,000 new houses, probably 200 or 300 new commercial properties. But overall, with total replats, probably around 20,000. new records.
So about 400,000 didn't change?
Yes, we'll get into that. We're getting into that next.
So that's still 56% parcels that got $1,000 more increase.
But we'll get to that next.
Okay.
We got a nice presentation for that. Okay, overall for 2025, the total market value for Bear County did rise 3.8% year over year. That rate of increase is broken down to 2% as a result of new value, new construction, and 1.8% from reappraisal adjustments. In just the residential property category, the overall increase was just over 2%, 1.5% being new value, new construction, and half a percent from reappraisal activities. In your folder, you should have looks like an Excel spreadsheet with green and yellow highlights on it. That puts numbers to these rates that I'm talking about. The Bear County total market value increased from $316 billion to approximately $328 billion. Now, this is uncertified numbers at this moment. They're just still part of the appraisal records. That equates to a 3.8% change, 2% from new value, 1.8% from reappraisal. Then it breaks it down by category: single family, multifamily, and commercial market value. The biggest takeaway, especially for residential, the average sales price as reported by the Real Estate Center from Texas A&M showed the average sale price went from $342,000 to $339,900. As a result, from our reappraisal efforts, the average homestead value on our Bear County records went from $339,000 to $338,900. So a slight decrease that is matching what we're seeing in the market. As reported, total dollar volume in sales is down 1.8%. Month's inventory is increasing. Right now, it's what we're seeing is a pretty flat market, not a lot of activity. So
In the reappraisal, 1.8%, is that in, the reappraisal also include all the new business, the new accounts?
it does, yes, sir.
Okay. Here's a minutia question. Do we know what that number would be without all the new business part of the calculation? Or the new accounts?
Yes, so reappraisal percent change, are you talking the number of accounts?
Well, you say we have a reappraisal increase, 1.8% of that increase, reappraisals.
And half
Of that number, if you took out all the new business, what would that number then become? I think you said you had 20,000 sold.
Yeah,
Am I phrasing the question?
yes,
Is there already?
yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's changed.
So I,
Okay, all right. So the 1.8 doesn't include anything new. Oh, it's just.
Yes, exists.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
these are
Misunderstood.
averages,
This is just looking at the total file and by category. So first we look at the county level, and then we look at the single family category, multifamily, and commercial.
Was there any particular area in Bear County that accounted for 1%, or was it just kind of evenly spread across the county, the increases?
No, it's more specific this year in what increased. We were seeing increases in the luxury market, and that's more focused in particular areas.
Okay,
On the residential side, on the commercial side, the retail sector tended to do a little bit better in 2024 because that's the data that we're looking at. And so we saw some changes there. But it was more specific this year. There was pockets of increase.
the pockets then of that increase was the higher end.
Yeah. Trended that way.
That makes sense, because they were study a little bit under the phrase, so. Yeah.
So,
Sir. How many, on this 20% cap, the commercial, how many, I guess, businesses were, say, maxed out at 10%? Do you have a number on that?
I don't have that number with me, but we can find that number.
You talk about circuit breaker, sir? Sorry, the 20% circuit?
Yeah, 20%. I'm just wondering. 5 million, is that the?
5 million or less.
Yeah, I just want to
Non-residential.
know how many commercial property owners saw that savings from that.
We will look into that for you.
All right.
The next page I'd like to bring to your attention is the here. Okay, this is a breakdown into our reappraisal efforts. So as we discussed, our reappraisal doesn't mean that market values are increasing. It also can look at decreasing markets as well. This displays that. So because we had the ability to reappraise this year, there were 256,000 residential properties that benefited from a decrease in value. That represents about 44% of the residential parcels. Then another large percentage, 173,000 properties, saw their values remain the same. So roughly just under 75% of the residential properties this year either stayed the same or went down as a result of the market conditions that we observed.
So that's consistent with past history. Not always it's been about same price.
But this is just a reflection of the current market activity that was seen towards the late parts of 2024, and now that is starting to blend into 2020. So market activity was indicating values are decreasing. As a result, our reappraisal efforts also show that as indicated, and our market values adjusted accordingly.
Just to clarify, our reappraisal plan also, if they decreased, we would acknowledge the decrease.
Yes.
So,
And we will look at that, yes. And again, we did see pockets of increase, and so you can see the breakdowns of properties that increased 1%, 1 to 5%, 5 to 10%, and then more than 10% with new value and without new value.
Are we running with this the entire time or after the protests are done, we're gonna come up with new one? This is one we're gonna be using.
This is what we're gonna be using, sir. I mean, because the only thing that's gonna change are the values after, the appeals process. One of the things that I would like to remind the board is this perfectly illustrates section 2301E of the reappraisal of the Texas Code that says we do not increase value if we don't have clear and convincing data. So I know that a lot of the misconception from the public is that an annual reappraisal means everything goes up. This just means we're looking at current information. To Mr. Allison's point, in 2023, we sent out almost 687,000 notices that year. We had an upward market. The next year, 2024, we sent out 120,000 less. This year, we sent out 173,000 less. By the board allowing us to reappraise annually, that allowed those property owners to see that decrease in the market, which is what we're doing, is reflecting the market.
but we were still included that in the reappraisal. So even next year, if they decrease. Okay. So I have a dumb question. So on this pie chart, you start with, there's, 256 decrease, 173 remain the same. Anything that increased over 1% to 10, so you take 30, you start with 33,000 and down. So does that number match this notice appraisal?
No.
393?
No.
So the
It
notice
won't,
appraisal.
because there's other things that go into whether or not somebody receives a notice. If their mailing address changes, if they purchased a property, if their value goes up because of a cap from one year to the next. There are multiple reasons that somebody would get a notice, not just because the market value went up or down.
Okay, so if we add all this stuff,
Someone
That would
with
show.
no change in value then. Or change is negligible. That reasonable?
Say that again, sir?
There would be a number of people that would get a notice with no real.
Correct.
Change in value to speak of.
That's correct.
I think only we just go.
so of this pie chart, about 153, 755 residential parcels get a value increase notice.
Yes.
And
You're looking
you
at-
said the residential parcels was 700 and some odd thousand.
No, that's total parcel.
Total.
So remind me what the parcels are for just residential.
Residential, yeah, it's just under 600, around 580 right now.
So about 27% still got increased notices.
Mhm.
I do that math
Now-
correct?
I understand that some of the properties' market values could have decreased this year. However, because of their homestead cap, the protection is still increasing from prior year market increases. So that means that their cap value is still below the market value.
That's one of the things that we've incorporated in our public outreach is that in an upward market, the homestead cap is beneficial because you're only getting that 10% increments for taxing purposes. But in a downward or stagnant market, that market value can stay the same or even decrease, but your appraised value can keep going up those 10%. That's allowed by law. So that's the thing that we want to make sure that the constituents understand is that you may not get a notice. That's why we're so big about letting them know you still have a right to appeal because that 10% increase still can go up if it's below the market value.
But that effect of the tax question is that some people. And these.
And that would be included in these notices.
In theory, the market value attainment be reached and these discrepancies will go away.
So when they catch up, yes,
Get
sir.
until our next big meeting.
So is there do we have a hard count on the number of commercial accounts that hit the 20% cap?
We will have to get that number for you. I don't have it prepared for you for this presentation.
I can include that in the email that I'm going to send to the board with the other information.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so now we're transitioning to the appeal season. So with notices hitting mailboxes, the protest deadline will be the next big calendar event for us.
Which tab is this?
We're still on tab 2. It's just the next, yeah, it's just the next page, just the next page. So we're looking at this advertisement right here. This advertisement is being broadcast on our website, our socials, but it's also going to be featured in the San Antonio Report, San Antonio Current, The Observer, Prensa, and Hearst Media for Express News, My SA, Southside Reporter, and Conexión. It's also being taken up by Judge Sakai's office, District 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9, Fair Oaks Ranch, and Leon Valley. They will all be quoting this advertisement of the bill deadline being May 15th.
You said it was Sakai, which districts?
District 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9. They've agreed to put that on their electronic newsletters or social media.
So. And thank you for the job you are doing. I do have a concern. And I know that the appraisal district's trying to get away from the word protest. But the code specifically says protest, and I don't see the word protest on here at all. I think that it's not good. I think that it is what it is, whether we want to change it, and I know Roy does a good job of in his presentation. This is still not what the code says. It says protest. And I think this is, it's just not good, it's misleading, and we're not using the verbiage that is in the code. That's my thought, Mr. President.
And I think it's a valid. I know we want to change the idea of what it is, but it should.
Okay, if that's for consent, then we can change that. That's not difficult.
I agree with you. What we want to do, it's going to take time.
So this is the exact image that'll show.
Yes, and it has a QR code that will direct them to our online portal.
Social media, of course, is included in this.
Yes.
So it just for clarity, you're gonna replace the word appeal with protest, right?
Yes.
We can't in the purchased ads because they've already been delivered to the publications, but on everything that we produce moving forward, we will change it.
I think what I would ask Jennifer is to try to get it changed. And do your best to do that, because I think that's the will of the board, and we deal a lot in advertisements, and
I can certainly ask it.
yes, that's what I'd like to do.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Is this the QR code that you're gonna use?
Mhm.
And what's it supposed to take us to?
The online portal, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but
To submit your online appeals.
the home page doesn't say anything about file your protest here, here's how. Not there. I'm just an old ad guy, that's the way I'm.
The online portal is not open yet because the appraisal notices haven't hit the mailbox.
Will there be an invitation to file when
Absolutely.
they hit the home page?
Yes.
So when I click on it, it takes me to that online services portal where they would.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not open yet.
It's not open.
And we will open it as the notices hit the mail. It is scheduled to be this weekend. Yes.
We'll make that change, Mr. Rusty. This was my idea. Our staff for so many years have been hearing so many negative comments about that word of protest. They came in here with a predetermination that our staff was here to argue and to have a contentious discussion, and that was not the case. So I made the decision, and I take full responsibility to change that word, because again, in today's society, it already has a negative connotation. In part of our outreach, that's one of the things that we've really helped us move the needle, so to speak. One of the things that I tell people is, if you go before a judge and he hands you a sentence, you don't protest his sentence, you appeal it. You're gonna see what you can do to remedy that situation. So again, I apologize to the board. I will take responsibility for that, and we'll see if we can make the change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always a bad idea, it's just, it's out, it's got a good point.
Yeah.
It's what the code says, so.
I get it.
Yeah, I think, for down the line, yeah, I can see what you're trying to do, and I respect that. But I think as long as the code says protest, that's what we need to do.
What we have to do is change our opinion. You know?
So what are the statistics on when an owner protests, that they get it resolved? Like 97%, right?
85 to 90%. No, we're talking just residential again, right?
And so I saw in some other county where they said, 80 or something. They said 87% of the time it's resolved to the benefit of the property owner. Maybe something like that. Help communicate that it's not a contentious situation.
I see. We can explore that idea,
You get wrong.
yeah.
I do, ma'am, I do. I don't want to give the perception that it's going to happen, because again, one of the things, and the reason that we really want to make sure that we're careful about what people say is, I know that at times people say, you protest and you get your value lowered, that's a successful appeal. Well, with all due respect, if a property owner comes in and they have a discussion with our staff and they sign off on a value, if we've explained how we arrived at it, and the property owner says, I can live with this value for this year, that's a successful appeal to me, because that property owner got the information, heard our side, we listened to their side, and there was resolution. That's a successful appeal. They don't have to pursue any further avenues as far as getting that lowered. I know that at times, we've talked about, well, a successful appeal is a lower valuation, but then again, the tax rates still come in the end of the, at the end of the year. So what happened at the appraisal district negates the fact that tax rates may or may not increase. So that's why we always focus our public outreach on what we do. We value property and we administer exemptions. So we can look at that avenue too. Now we
Why don't we just say agreement? Because at the end of the day, it's an agreement,
Mhm.
whether it's decrease or remain the same.
right.
Say 87% of the time and agree to the par value is.
Do we have a bullet point page or a guide on our website that says anything about most useful things a person can bring? Besides the obvious, your HUD statement, I guess, would be the most powerful. And any other known sales, obvious flaws, bad roof, rock fascia, cracks, foundations, things like that. Is there anything else out there that they should know about?
We put out there a evidence guide, if you will. 9 times out of 10, people want to talk about the conditions of their property. Pictures are great because they tell a story. Estimates would put a dollar amount to what it's going to cost to remedy that. Like you said, comparable sales, comparable listings. I tell property owners when I talk to them at public outreach, when they say, what's the best evidence? Anything that you feel would make a case to have your value adjusted. If it's a blueprint that shows our square footage is off, let's fix it. If it's pictures that show the interior, let's look at it. We are not here to dissuade anybody from presenting anything. Yesterday, I talked to a gentleman who had a very unique take on his surroundings. I said, sir, I'll be honest with you, in 26 years, I've never heard that case, but let's talk about it. And if maybe the appraiser says, well, I can or cannot take into consideration, maybe the ARB will. So again, when people ask us, what's the limit? What's the most you can do? I said, Mr. Allison said it best years ago. The only thing we're limited to is the evidence. If you have evidence to substantiate a reduction in value, we will look at that and consider.
We do have guides for
Yes,
posted
sir.
online and our frequently asked questions, and we mail it out in our evidence packets as well.
For example, I had many years ago, I had a protest and I just went out and got a cost per square foot quote for similar construction
Mhm.
on a new house. And, much to the appraiser's surprise, it was $10 a square foot less than what they had set, and they made the change. That kind of evidence is good. It was from a bona fide recognized builder
Absolutely.
or source.
Wrapping up the appraisal records report is the 25-25B report. Once a quarter, we come to the board to notify you of any changes or corrections made by the chief appraiser. This quarter, we don't have any accounts to report. That concludes the appraisal records report unless you have any further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, district operations. Community outreach. This is related to.
I am sorry. I'm pleased to announce our HR director who will give us some information. Our office has been awarded a top workplace on a national level. This is the 3rd year that we've received this award. We're very happy about that. And I will let Ms. McLeod give more information.
As you know, we participate in the Energate survey. We've done it for 6 years. 2025 will be our 7th year. And so Energate takes various aspects of an anonymous survey to staff, and it includes culture, leadership, and engagement, employee engagement. What they've done for the last 3 years is they've forwarded that information to USA Top Workplaces, and they use their benchmarks. And any organization that has 150 more employees that qualify, they'll announce winners. And so we announced it in March, just after the last board meeting, that we were a winner for 2025. So it'll be our 3rd year for the Top USA Workplaces. So we're very proud of that. And again, it starts with you, with the board. We thank you for allowing our staff to get the things that they need so that they can give us their feedback, And we try to work on the feedback that they give us, and we try to make improvements every year. So we hear their thoughts, and we comply with that as best as we can. Baby steps for us to do that for them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. McLeod's absolutely right. We couldn't do any of this without board support. Right now, that notices are getting ready to be mailed out. I am planning on meeting with all staff April 17th to let them know what my expectations are of this upcoming season. First and foremost is customer service. We can't instill enough what we expect. I use the analogy that if you go to a restaurant and you don't like the service or you don't like the food, there's plenty other restaurants that'll serve that same type of food. If you come to our office, there's no other Bear Appraisal District. There's only one. So that is what our customers, that is what our property owners, our constituents expect, your constituents expect. And we take that very seriously. And we couldn't do it for our staff without board support. So I want to thank you all for doing that, because that allows us to look after our staff, because they look after your constituents.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Community engagement, Ms. Jennifer.
Now, Mr.
No, it's fine. Just very briefly, I'm going to focus on our community interaction statistics. Those are the people that we get to cross paths with day to day in our customer information and assistance department.
We, as you can tell with our changing calendar, the number of people that cross our paths starting to grow. We answered a total of 10,921 phone calls last month, but the average speed of answer remains at that 2-minute mark. So we're doing our best to get those phone calls taken care of. We had 4,079 people in-house. Again, average wait time hovers around the 7-minute mark again. Our chatbot is increasing, 1,285 interactions. And we found out today that we're actually getting multiple languages. We answered some in French recently, which is very interesting. For the month of March, we only had 6 events with our community outreach program, but that is going to increase. I decided to hold off on giving you a detailed report for April because I wanted you to see the amount of people that we get to meet at these events. We have 16 total this month. And so at our next board meeting, I will give you a breakdown of just how many people were at each event and how many documents we were able to bring back with us to save them and trip to work.
We started the first one in District 4.
Our first one, 50 households, we were there till, yeah, with a smile on our face. 54? Oh, they took me 53, so. Oh, no, it was 53 households. 53 households were registered at that event, which was in District 4, and so we were happy to be there.
That's kind of like. Are you sliding in that?
Mr. Chairman, board member, staff, good afternoon. I want to make sure you can hear me. Now, what I don't have a whole bunch of numbers, and I don't have, the helpful presentations, but I do have my voice. What I'm going to share with you in just a few moments are some of the people that I came across. I'm going to call them customers. We can call them tax. And it spreads the gambit. You have those that reach out to me because they would want to learn how to fill out certain paperwork. For example, exemption. And I don't mind going through that with them. I don't mind going through the limited binding arbitration may come my way. Because some of those members, some of the customers don't know how to fill those out. So what they do, instead of reading all of the information in it, they go directly to the blanks where you have to fill it out. And once they fill it out, what they usually do is they just send it right on in without actually reading, because you read it, it tells you step by step what you need to do. So when it gets to me, they have already filed that paperwork. So I would have to tell them, did you write the chair? Did you write the chief appraiser? Did you write the TLO? No. Tell me about this. Why did you fill out the paperwork? So they talk about everything, but saying that the ARB didn't follow protocol. So that's a no-go, because the first thing you go to those meetings, they say, well, did you write to those 3 people? No. And their intention of going through that is to have another hearing because it's a value thing. And that's not what it's all about. So that was one of them. One of the most interesting ones I had was just the other day, where I received an email that says our office would like to set up an appointment in the next 24 to 48 hours. So what I did was I sent them a copy of my schedule when to meet. I met with them. It was twofold. The first part of it was, I want to do a better communication between the appraisal district. Okay, we sat down and we talked about it. And in the talk, I noticed that the front person was from the main person who was causing all of the friction. So speaking with the manager, when she asked me, I didn't hesitate to let her know that what her response was, what her actions were. And as a result of that, we won't have that person coming to create issues with the district personnel, as well as create a problem with the ARB. Now, the second part of that, to make things go easier for her, was scheduling. So I don't do scheduling. So I had to go to Ms. Darnell. So I invited her to the meeting. And she sat down and they went through step by step how to make the transaction between the agents and the personnel and scheduling handle things on a much smoother level, and how to get everything crossed and dotted so that the functions will go smooth. So I don't have a whole bunch of numbers to give you, but what I do have to give you is the facts that this is how some of the taxpayers and the customers go about it. And sometimes they don't want to speak with certain people. So they call me. I have no issue with that. But I'm telling them the same thing that's told to them. But I sit them down first and we calm the atmosphere. And I let them know that while we are talking, the staff is doing paperwork to help you, whether you believe it or not. So once the paperwork is given to me, I go over it with them. And this is all the information they need to come in with in order for them to move further on, make sure that their issue is resolved. So I enjoy doing that as well, but I also see that brings a calming to them when they feel that they cannot, how do you say, express themselves correctly. So they need someone that can sit and listen and talk to. As a result of all of that I've done, are there any questions for me?
Do you ever have them asking you, how do they come up with this value?
They usually do ask me how they come up with that value. That I cannot give them because it depends on who you're questioning. Are you questioning the panel or are you questioning their appraiser? Because both of them come up with digits.
So you usually see them after they.
Most definitely, sir. Yes,
So,
yes. And if they're still not happy there, when it comes to value, there's nothing I can do.
And in that case, you recommend that they go to arbitration?
If they, because you see, when you go to arbitration, there has to be a problem with the procedures of the ARB. And if that's not part of it, then you fill out the paperwork for limited binding arbitration. And the first thing they're gonna ask you is the procedure from the ARB, did they follow those procedures? And a lot of times, those customers will say yes.
So you can't escalate it to arbitration unless there's a flaw. in the procedure.
testing the value.
Yeah, testing value. Are there any other questions?
But not procedure. That's procedure.
And it's all written out on that form. It's stuff that you have to read before you fill anything out. It gives you instruction and it tells you right there what to do if this is the issue. And a lot of people don't read those. They go straight to those lines and start writing. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
And last, the appraisal review board.
And Mr. Gannon, right now, Mr. George does not have anything to.
Um, yeah, there was new business that's not on the agenda. If anyone wants to- What was that?
New business.
New business. A question, because I don't know if it's new business. If someone makes a FOIA request and the request is, how did you arrive at that value? Do you answer it?
What we, typically what we'll do, sir, is direct the property owner to the appropriate division, whether it's residential or commercial, and they can explain the process.
And the hard data they have, if they didn't see it, they should have seen it at the ARB, right?
Whatever data was presented at the ARB is the only data that we can use.
That's the evidence that's correct.
Yes, sir.
I've heard that some people, they're always asking.
They don't need to do a FOIA. They'll just
Absolutely.
ask for their evidence packet.
No, if it's just private for them and not a blanket.
Absolutely. But a lot of times, to your point, Ms. Heisel, like, after the meeting, they'll say, hey, look, I want to discuss it. We can get either a senior appraiser, a supervisor, or even the residential director or commercial director. They've all had ample conversations with property owners as far as explaining the process. The last thing we want anybody to do is leave here confused. Again, we understand where people, the whole mass appraisal concept is something foreign.
And is that when the CAMA software comes in to help you?
That's how we arrive at the
You can
numbers.
dial it up, it's all there, okay.
If they forget to check evidence packet on their protest application, they can always still have
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
Just to clarify that.
We try to make it as easy as possible. The last thing we want to do is to have a reason to say, well, you didn't check this, but it makes no sense for us to do that. You know, like I said, that's the last thing we want to do. Those are the type of situations that caused the friction back in the old days. And that there's no need for that. We're not petty.
Or if you're like me, you forget where you put it.
And if they have a friend who's a real estate broker and they pull up some MLS information for them, it's theirs to use, correct?
Absolutely.
We're
We're limited to present whatever we gave you at the evidence packet.
right.
At the
But
hearing,
they can present it to you.
absolutely. Yes, sir. And to the ARB.
That can save a lot of time. Good. I don't think they know that. Steve, no.
It goes back to that list.
Yeah.
All right, so after the meeting, Dr. Boxdale and I will get together for some dates for
Sure.
the budget subcommittee. That being the case, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Resting, second by Dr. Barstow, all in favor? Aye, any opposed? Meeting is closed at 8:15 p.m. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.